Hey guys, so in the wedding planning process, I am currently going through some experiences that I'm super glad that I received advice on, and I just want to pass those along to you. So some of these things you may have heard, you may not have heard, but let's just jump right into the 9 tips that I received that were most beneficial to me during my wedding planning process. Tip number 1, read wedding website forums. So there were a lot of questions that I had about the wedding planning process, and I joined Wedding Wire. I created an account on Wedding Wire, and I was able to get a checklist. It helped me to organize my planning, but I really needed to hear some advice from people who have been through the process before. So those forums really helped me to get encouragement, helped get my questions answered that I had that I didn't even think about on my own. They helped me to kind of be a part of a community of people who either have been through or are going through the same process that I'm going through currently. So to have that forum available was really helpful to me. Tip 2, think functional. So a lot of weddings involve many aspects that you will only use probably once for that particular wedding day, and then you'll never use it again. But I didn't want to just kind of splurge on things that I'll never use again. So in my planning, I made sure that I include like decor, like flower parts that I could reuse, different like tablecloths and things that I could purchase, maybe like 1 or 2 of, that I could take with me to my house whenever I move in with my fiance, who will be my husband. But I thought functional in purchasing my decorations so that I could use these things over and over and over again in the future. So I didn't just want to spend just on one thing. So that's maybe something that you might want to consider in planning your wedding. Tip 3, consider including local family and friends as wedding participants. So it's easy to just get ideas about who is going to look good in what and who's going to make your wedding day the best and the most fun. But up until that point, you still have lots of things to do that you actually need hands for. You need people to be available and dependable and to be ready to just like meet you at the store in 20 minutes or meet you somewhere to help you finish a particular task that you're doing. But you may want to consider asking some local people to be part of your wedding day as well. That way they already know the ins and outs of what it is you're thinking and your theme and what is going to be involved in your wedding day, and then that way the people that know the most can be most involved with helping you to do the legwork up until the day of your wedding. Tip 4, don't be so turned off by wedding etiquette so fast. So this is a season of do what you want to do. It's your wedding, it's your day. Be happy, be great. And that's perfectly fine. For the bride who really likes to go off the edge and doesn't like to do things the conventional way and the traditional way, that is just perfect. Someone who's not probably focused on so much the wedding, but focused on just a small like gathering so that someone can witness their nuptials and then they move into marriage life and not have to worry about being materialistic, that is perfectly fine. For the bride that is considering involving so many people in the wedding, you may want to consider looking into wedding etiquette. And I believe there are 4 benefits to wedding etiquette. Number 1, you can better manage your guests. So in the way that you communicate to your guests about what's going to happen before, during, and after the wedding ceremony, sometimes you might need a little tip about how to handle that. So wedding etiquette gives you advice about that. It gives you advice about how to entertain your guests before the wedding and between the wedding and the reception. So that's one benefit of wedding etiquette. Another benefit is avoiding severing relationships with people. I don't think a wedding is worth severing relationships with people. And so wedding etiquette can help you on how to word your invitation when it comes to who to invite, who to not invite, how you want to involve people in your ceremony, and how you want to involve people in your reception, who you want to be the most a part of your day, and who you kind of want to just kind of like show up the day of and not have to worry about being as involved. Wedding etiquette helps you to deal with situations like that. Another benefit is you get tips on how to manage important components of your wedding day. So like how to word your invitations and how to manage your RSVPs and what to say and what not to say and who to invite and who not to invite, who to involve in your wedding process and who not to involve, how do you get people involved and how to get people to not be involved. All that stuff wedding etiquette deals with. And then the fourth benefit of wedding etiquette is it helps you to appreciate the process, the execution, and the aftermath of wedding planning. A lot of times we go through the motions of planning the wedding and we get all emotional about it, but then we forget to actually sit and absorb and be engaged and figure out that this is actually probably one of the most fun things you could ever do as a person, as someone who's getting ready to be married. A lot of people don't get the opportunity to have this experience, and so to take it for granted is kind of you know, something that I didn't want to do. And so having wedding etiquette to kind of guide me and teach me how and when to do things and what seasons and, you know, different things about the planning process, it helped me to appreciate what I did and what I went through. So that's tip 4, guys. Tip 5, start gathering your addresses the minute you know who your guest list is. So it's easy for us to compile a set of names, but it's not so easy to gather their addresses if we're choosing the formal way to mail out invitations. So what I did was, as soon as I got my guest list, I started gathering those addresses as quickly as possible. I had to find different platforms, whether it be to call a relative or to search out recent brides in my family and friends who had a compiled list already. Updating people's addresses, making sure that they were not out of date, making sure that I reached out to people through Facebook. That took months to do. So something you want to consider, you may want to consider, is going ahead and doing your addresses early. The less stress you have about addresses, the easier it is for you to focus on your invitations and the style and who gets what and how many seats and all that stuff. You won't have to worry about where the invitation goes closer to that time. Tip 6, create a separate email account. So you're going to get messages from vendors, from your guests that have questions and that want to send you messages. You're going to get information about your products that you purchase, receipts, confirmations, all that good stuff can add up. And so when it's mixed into your personal email account, sometimes it gets hard to traverse through that to find what you need in order to make your wedding flow. And so creating a separate email account helps to make that happen. It's easy to remember if you create something that's catchy, something that's related to your wedding, and it's something that is fun, guests can use, vendors can use, stores, you can use that for stores, you can use that for anything that's wedding related, and it'll just be in one inbox. That's what I did, and it was the best decision I've ever made, because my inbox is currently full right now of stuff from like personal things, personal accounts that I signed up with, and personal important emails that I need to keep separate from all of my wedding related stuff. And so that email account really came in handy. Consider an unconventional way to do RSVPs. So typically a lot of people are doing the website now. Formally, you would ask guests to mail in their invitations. My problem was a lot of my guests are not tech savvy, and then I had over 300 invitations to send out, and so to double the cost of the stamp for the invitation itself and then include a separate stamp for the RSVP envelope was a lot to do. And so what I did was I included a number for my guests to call so that they could RSVP by phone. And basically I used the Google Voice service, which is free. And what you do is you set up an account, you choose a phone number. It asks you whether you want the phone number to forward calls and messages to your personal phone, or if you just want to keep that separate. I opted to keep it separate. And you could access voicemails, text messages, and phone calls online, and also from your phone through an app. Google Voice has an app as well. So it's easy to use, easy to set up. I had the number forward to voicemail, and then in my voicemail I gave my guests instructions on how to RSVP. So it was a pretty easy process, and people use it. It's straightforward. Nobody's really complained about it or had any issues with it since I've done it. So maybe consider doing something unconventional, like having people call in or text in for RSVPs. And that's tip number 6. Wait, that was 7. Sorry. Tip number 8, start planning early. You probably have heard that before, but it's never enough to say it again. So wedding planning is so full of stuff, and sometimes you might think you have so much time on your hands. Depending on how much time that you've given yourself between your engagement and your actual wedding ceremony, you may have a lot of time and you may not have a lot of time, but don't take the time that you have for granted. Consider planning early when you do plan to have a wedding. It's never too early to start. It's never too early to conjure ideas, to get a vision, to get a theme, to put it together, to make it make sense. It's never too early for that. Even if it's too early to book anything, even if it's too early to focus on the small little details, you can at least like be a visionary early. So start planning as early as you can, as soon as possible. That way it creates less stress for you. And that's tip number 8. My finger in the camera. Tip number 9, the last tip, is do something wedding related every month. From the time you get engaged to the time that you get married, that time is going to go fast. It doesn't matter if you've been engaged for 6 months, for a year, for 2 years, that time is going to go fast. You're going to blink and it's going to be gone before you know it. So I'm currently at a month and a half left for my journey, and we started planning back in December 2015, and that time has flown by just like that. So basically I made sure that I did something every month. So in the beginning I focused on the major vendors and some of the not so major but still significant vendors, but I wanted to make sure that I also thought about the little tiny small details of my wedding as well each month. So if I could purchase my favorite boxes in the beginning, then I tried to do that. Mainly not just for the sake of your sanity, but also for the sake of your budget as well. So if you could like disperse things and plan every month, if it's not you spending money for something, it's at least you brainstorming and you thinking about the little things every month. What I do not recommend is that you plan every day of the month. What I do recommend is that you plan every month. That's something that I did at least once a month. I made sure that I thought about my wedding and what I wanted and what I could do at that moment to make it happen. Never too early, like I said. So those are my 9 tips on what advice I took that made my wedding planning process easier. But what I want you to do is include your tips and also include your questions about the wedding planning process. So maybe you're in the wedding planning process now, or maybe you're considering it in the future and you just want to know what it's like and you just want to know what you'd be getting into if you wanted to take that journey. Or maybe you've already been through this, you're married, it's done, and you just want to give some words of wisdom to current and future brides. Comment below, guys. I want to interact with you guys. I want to know what you think. I want to know what your planning has been or is going like or is going to be like. I want to know. We can converse because you never know. Someone can benefit from something that you say. So definitely write in the comments, guys. I'm pointing down because that's exactly where the comments are, and you should probably write in that your questions, your advice, your encouragement, anything that you have that anybody can benefit from. Right. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. So this is part 1. I figured I'd break this into 2 parts because my planning is not over with, and there is something that I'm bound to learn along the way within the next 1.5 months. So my part 2 is gonna come after I get married, and I'm going to tell you some more tips and advice that I learned that I took that made my wedding planning process easier. But until next time.